Well, hi guys, and welcome to this week's Facebook Live, where of course I answer question of the week. Now, if you read the title before you came on, which I will read out to you in a moment, you'll notice that this week's question of the week has a lot of little questions embedded within it. That's because these is a combination of questions I've been receiving from people over the last few weeks, and I've combined them all together into one question so I can answer them at once. See, at this time of year, people are beginning to, as the song goes, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. So people are starting to get into the Christmas mood. For example, on a courier arrived moments ago with a whole lot of presents from Aunty Aileen for my kids. So they're stoked. They've got big Christmas presents. They've got belated birthday presents in there. Whole lot of gifts for them. So they're really excited. And at this time of year, people who are sharing and kind and considerate, they think about what they're going to give for Christmas. But the little kids, they think about what they're going to get for Christmas, which of course my kids' face lit up because all they could see was all this stuff they were going to get. So this week's question of the week is actually based on that mentality, because sometimes when we're in business, we forget to think about what our customers want, what we should be giving them, and we think about what we want to get. And as a result, I've had a whole lot of questions come through, and I can see you guys coming online now. So hi Vivian, hi John, and everyone else as you're coming on. I can only see some of your names. What happens is that we almost get this little child mentality where it's like what we want in our business. Thus, I got this range of questions that I'm combining into one answer today, as opposed to thinking about our customer and what we can give them. But I'm going to answer this question for you anyway. And as I said, it's a question I put together based on a series of questions I received so I can answer it all in one go. Because a lot of the time, if you can actually automate any of these things you don't want to do, which is going to be where my answer's going if you get that from the headline, then you don't have to do the things you don't want to do. You can only do the things you want to do in your business, and that way you can give your customers what they want because they're getting both sides. They're either getting what they wanted from you automated, or they're getting that personalised one-on-one attention from you and the things you want to do. So it's an awesome question. However, because it's a combination of previously asked questions that have been sent through to me over the last few weeks, I am going to have to read it because I did combine it together in such a format that I can't remember absolutely everything in it, and I want to make sure I'm not missing any steps. So just picking up my phone, because as I said, I always SMS the questions through to myself so I've got them if I ever need to refer to them in these live sessions. Question 4 for Publishing Queen Questions of the Week is, I don't want, these are the different things people have been sending through to me, an office to take phone calls, to answer emails, to read mail, to manage staff, to manage clients, to pay for anything, to work at all. These are just some of the examples and the most relevant ones, so I've summed them up, and hi Jill as you jump on there. So how do I automate X, Y, and Z so I don't have to do any of these things I don't want? Is basically the summary of the question. Well, let's look at them individually. The first one is to take phone calls. You guys may or may not be surprised to know I don't take phone calls. I actually don't take phone calls because I don't want to. They interrupt what I'm doing. And whatever I'm doing at the time is important. It's something I've committed to. My time is valuable. And if someone rings, whatever it's about, even if it's something I actually think is important, if I take that phone call, it interrupts my flow and I can't complete the important task I'm doing. So I actually don't take phone calls. You cannot call me. I do not have an incoming number. Technically I do for those of you who have SMS privileges to me, but it won't even ring. It will go straight through to my voicemail. It will transcribe to SMS. It will be sent to me. This is all automation. And then I can see whatever meeting I'm in or whatever I'm doing at the time, whether that is actually urgent. And there is a difference between what your customers think is urgent and what you think is urgent. 4 categories you see you guys go. There's urgent and there's important. There's urgent but unimportant. There's non-urgent but important, and there's non-urgent and not important. And any task that comes through to you should really put into those 4 categories in that 4 order, and that's what I do. And if it doesn't fit in that top category, I don't drop everything to deal with it. So you can't call me. But what you can do is you can book a slot on my automated calendar and then I call you. Now, firstly, it's a time convenient to me because I only put those times on my calendar. But secondly, it's a time convenient to you because you booked the time that worked for you on my calendar. So this keeps everyone happy. So this is fantastic. This is about what I don't want to do in answer to the question, and it's about giving the customers what they want, the gift of my time. So I think that should summarize number 1. However, as I said, I got a lot of different questions sent through, which I'm going to put all together in this week's. So number 2 was, I skipped it. I said phone calls because I was passionate about that. Number 1 was I don't want an office. You don't have to have an office. I run a fully virtual business, so I'm actually filming this from home, because if I technically had an office, I guess it would be at home. I've had the physical office, I've had the virtual office. They all had overheads, they all had other things that I didn't like. For example, when I had the physical office, I had to get there at 5 o'clock when my staff left, and I was working through all the night making sure stuff was done so I could leave 9 o'clock the next morning when they got there. I didn't want that, so I went virtual. But I still thought I needed physical things, somewhere for someone to go and book a physical meeting, somewhere for people to go and deliver the mail, somewhere for people to actually take the phone call and answer that phone call. But it was a waste of my time, as you see from my previous example, because they take the phone call and book a meeting for me because they didn't have the expert knowledge I had in order to answer it. If someone came to deliver mail, I still had to get that mail to me. If someone just walked in off the street, well, they can walk into my web presence. So actually, you don't need any of that anymore. I'm just using myself as an example. But if you don't want an office, you don't have to. If you don't want a physical office, have a virtual one. If you don't want a virtual one, skip that. You can skip the whole process. As I said, the second point was phone calls, where you can skip that as well. I've already shown you how to do that. But the next one was emails. Some people don't want to even answer emails. Now, I actually like emails because I can handle them at any time at my convenience. Some of my customers say, why do you send me such long-winded emails? But I like to put everything into one email so it's all dealt with at one time. You don't have to find all these little dribs and drabs of email tracks. But the point is, if you don't want to answer emails, you don't have to. You can actually automate that whole process as well. In other words, you would need a virtual team for this aspect. As I said, I do like to do it myself, but you can actually have a virtual help desk. You can set them up with preset answers, so you would be training someone initially, and they can answer all your queries for you with a call to action to some kind of automated other system you've got in place, so you actually don't ever need an office, don't ever need to answer the phone, and don't ever need to answer another email again. But that brings me to my next point. People don't want to read mail. Well, do you know what? I actually cancelled my PO box. Do you know why? For over 12 months, I didn't receive one package. Not one. In 12 months. I got a little bit of junk mail or some spam, occasionally a letter like from a phone provider with the bill because I forgot I only wanted to receive them electronically, or it was a copy of what I received electronically. But other than that, not a thing from one customer, from one supplier, anything relevant from advertisers even, for 12 months. And I went, stuff this. Why do I need a PO box? It's an inconvenience to me to go get the mail, though I had automated that process as well, and I actually had a company drive to my PO box and pick up my mail and deliver it to my door. But once again, that's an expense I didn't need because there was no mail there. So isn't it interesting, these things we think we need, we don't necessarily need. So if you don't want to read physical mail at all, don't have a physical address. If you're running a fully virtual business and you don't have a PO box, you don't want to give out your personal address or your office if you do have an office, if you don't want people coming to it. For example, it's a virtual office. So all you need to do, and I can see people like, so that's fantastic, and hi Jill, I didn't see that comment before, she said hi there. You don't need any of these things if you don't want to. So just to recap, if you don't want an office, don't have one. If you don't want to take phone calls, you don't need to. If you don't want to answer emails, you don't need to do that either. And the last one I just said, if you don't want to read the mail, don't read the mail. My problem is the snail mail at home, because obviously I do occasionally get mail at home. And you know what, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't read that for sometimes up to 6 months. It just goes on the, I'm too busy to deal with that now pile. And occasionally I look at it and I go, oh gee, you know, there's a couple of toll notices, obviously my thing didn't scan, or something like that. Oh, it was interesting to know that such and such election was on, didn't get any of that marketing. So it's really nothing important in there. So you don't need to worry about it at all. I'm not saying read your mail every 6 months. That's probably bad advice. But I'm saying if you don't want to read mail, you don't have to. The next one I've added to the list that people sent through to me is to manage staff. Now, you only have to manage staff if you have them. Think about that for a moment, because the next point is to manage clients. Now, these are opposites, yet they kind of work together. If you don't want to manage staff, don't have any. So what did I do? When I closed down the physical office, I turned all my staff to subcontractors. Now I didn't have staff. That fixed my problem, right? No. These were still team members. I still had to delegate tasks, check they did them on time, project manage what they'd done, or art direct what they'd done. That took up all my time. It would have been quicker doing it myself. But I didn't want to do it myself, because if I'm doing it myself, it's still taking up my time. So how does this work? Well, if you want dedicated team members, fantastic, have them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a team or staff or subcontractors. I'm saying for the people that ask me that question, you don't have to. One of the things I specialize in is automation. And if you don't want any team members in your business other than you, in fact, if you don't even want you in your business, if you don't want to be an active team member in your business, if you want it to run completely without you, you can do that. There is systems, there is ways to automate just about any task on the planet at the moment. Now, feel free to ask me questions below or send me more questions and I'll answer them in future sessions. but there is ways to automate anything. So if you do not want a team member, you don't have to have one. But what about the next point? What about down here? I've got not staff members, under staff. I've got clients. You don't want any clients? No, hold on. I think the actual point was they didn't want to manage clients. See, clients are hard work. We all want clients. If we don't have clients, they don't pay for what they're buying from us. We're not in business if we don't transact money. But what I think the person meant that asked this one was they didn't want to deal with their clients. Well, once again, automation's a way around that. Use the book, for example. If you publish a book to profile you as the expert in your field, and that's all you do, you've created work for yourself. You've got to market that book. When someone buys it, you've got to ship that book out. If you haven't even automated the buying process, you've got to manually wait for the check to come in the mail and go to the bank to bank it. It's all this messy stuff, and most of this you guys don't even do anymore. But some of you do. Automate as much as every process as possible. But even if the whole way through that book process you automate everything, what if you're drop shipping the book? If you haven't automated the drop shipping, then you've still got to manually, even if it only takes a second of your time, actually process that order. And you're doing it for a customer. But if you fully automate the process, and here's where you need to think about what you actually want to sell, you don't necessarily have to have customers at all. Well, not have them, but not manage them. Because of course, if you fully automate a course, for example, where there's nothing physically to post out like the book, then someone can actually come to your web presence, and I've mentioned many different ways they can be redirected there, aside from many different marketing techniques out there at the moment, or lead generation techniques. They can come to your web presence and they can sign up for a preview of whatever it is you're offering, in this case, the course. They can go through a series of autoresponders pre-programmed. They can build a relationship with you before you've even met them. And then they can transact money. Once they transact money, they're a customer of yours. You still haven't met them. And after they transact this money, then they get access to the course they've purchased. It might have 12 modules. They might be weekly modules. They might want to access them all at once. Each module might have up to 3 videos and a whole lot of downloadable resources. Now they're getting your high-end training. You still haven't met them. It still hasn't utilized any of your time. When they get to the end of that program, maybe, for example, I can see more people hopping on, so hi there, guys. Maybe, for example, they want to become an affiliate of this program because they think it's so fantastic. Now they're promoting it for you. They're doing your lead gen. They're doing your marketing. You still haven't met them. It still hasn't utilized any of your time, and it hasn't cost you a cent. If you don't want to have customers, or as I said, if you don't want to manage customers, then the best way to avoid doing that is simply put, only sell fully digital, fully automated products. As soon as you offer a service of any sort, even if it's coaching or something high-end like that, you have to be there to do it. So if you really don't want customers, not a problem. Automate it by only selling something that can be created once and delivered an infinite number of times to an infinite number of people. And that's getting me towards the end. The last two we've got is to pay for anything or to work at all. Well, I don't want to pay for anything is kind of a hard one in business because a lot of times you have to purchase something to get you to the point you want to be. But there is lots of shortcuts or free ways of doing things these days. So that's fantastic. But once you do all of these free shortcuts, at some point along the way, you may have to pay someone something. For example, people don't work with me unless, of course, they pay for the privilege of it. But there's lots of people that are very cheap out there, or ways of doing things absolutely free for a lot of the process, and you can actually do most things without spending a cent. But they said they don't want to pay for anything at all. If you don't pay for anything at all, then at the end of the day, you're not going to get the final results you want, because somewhere along the way, you need to pay someone for something. So I'm going to actually translate this question and say, instead of not paying for anything at all, only pay for what you need. In other words, pay someone who can automate the part of the process you don't want to do, so you never have to pay any money on that again, either setting it up or someone else to do it because you don't want to. That way you're spending your money once, not on an ongoing basis. And that should sum up that question. But the last part I've got here is work at all. Well, on one hand, I could say you're pretty lazy if you don't want to work at all. On the other hand, isn't that what everyone wants? True work-life balance is having life all the time and never working. Well, actually, I achieved that and I was bored shitless, pardon my French. I had my second child and I decided that meant I had to become a stay-at-home mum, fully automated the business, passive income, miserable. So be careful when you say this, that this is actually what you want, not working at all, because some of the time we actually want to do the things we want to do and we don't see them as work, so that's an important thing to note. But if you really don't want to work at all, oh thanks Chris, I've not only got hello, I've got an amazing there, so that's awesome. If you really don't want to work at all, you don't have to. My previous example will fully automate your income, and as I said, if you're not dealing with customers, if you're not dealing with suppliers, guess what? You're actually working for your money. So that can be achieved with automation as well. So down the bottom, of course, it says X, Y, and Z. I've just given you an example of each one. I hope that was helpful for people. I'm sorry that I combined about 8 questions into one, but I was getting all of these kind of questions coming through now that I'm working more in the automation space, and I just thought it was helpful for people to combine them all into one session. So just in summary, if you don't want an office, you don't have to have one. You can have a virtual office, you can have nothing at all. If you don't want to take phone calls, don't answer your phone, get it transcribed to SMS and decide whether you're going to take action on those things and when you're going to take action on them and what's the priorities and what's important and urgent to you, not necessarily to your customer, so that you can create that automation around that. Number 3, if you don't want to answer emails, you don't have to. You can have, for example, a fully automated business set up, so all you're getting is autoresponders and you don't need to answer any of them, it's just for your notification purposes. Or you can get a VA or someone to handle that for you if you do want to give people email access to you, but you don't want to be the one answering them. If you don't want to read mail, don't have an address. As soon as you give someone an address, even a PO box, they feel obligated to post something there, and then you've got mail to read. So if you don't want it, do not give anyone your address. Really simple. If you don't want to manage staff, don't employ anyone. That doesn't mean that you can't have subcontractors or someone do something for you once off, but get them to do something in a once-off capacity so that it sets you up so that it's automated thereafter. You don't have to pay anyone on an ongoing basis. And same thing with clients. If you don't want to manage clients, don't have them. Only sell something that can be created once and delivered an infinite number of times to an infinite number of people. And I'm loving all your smiles and hearts coming up there, guys. And last 2, and I am summarising this because it went for a while and I just want to make sure we've got a good summary at the end. If you don't want to pay for anything, I wouldn't suggest avoiding that completely. I'd suggest only paying someone who can automate whatever it is you don't want to do or you don't want to pay someone to do, so that you never have to pay someone on an ongoing basis to do it. You never have to do it yourself again, so it's set up once and works for you indefinitely after that. And last one, if you don't want to work at all, well, you don't have to. So long as you don't provide a service of any sort, so long as you don't provide a product that has to be physically delivered, if you purely offer a digital service that can be created once and delivered to an infinite number of people an infinite number of times, such as an online course, which is why I use that as an example, then you can have a purely passive income and you don't ever have to do any of those things again. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you back here same time, same place for your ongoing questions of the week next week. Until then, I wish you every publishing and marketing success.